One of the hardest parts of teaching is figuring out how to keep students actively engaged while also meeting the needs of a classroom full of completely different learners. Some students want to talk nonstop, some refuse to participate, some need extra support, and some are ready to move much faster than everyone else. This video focuses on two major tools teachers use to handle that challenge: classroom discussion and differentiation. We'll start with discussion. And no, classroom discussion is not just asking students a bunch of questions and waiting for someone to raise their hand with the correct answer. There's an important distinction between recitation and true discussion. Recitation is the traditional pattern where the teacher asks a factual question, a student answers, and the teacher evaluates it. Real discussion goes deeper. It gives students opportunities to explain their thinking and explore ideas out loud. Discussion helps students strengthen and extend their understanding of a topic. It also gives teachers a window into student thinking. When students explain their ideas publicly, teachers can identify misconceptions and use follow-up questions to guide students towards deeper understanding. Discussion also builds communication skills and social skills, which are both incredibly important inside and outside the classroom. Traditional classroom discussion often follows what's called the Initiation Response Evaluation model, or IRE. Basically, the teacher does most of the talking, only a few students participate, and students become focused on trying to guess the answer the teacher wants instead of actually thinking critically. This type of discussion is no longer recommended, so in this video we will dive into how to posit more effective questions. There are three major types of questions. Convergent questions have one best answer. Divergent questions are more open-ended and creative, and elaborative questions push students to explain their reasoning with prompts like, "Why do you think that?" A good classroom discussion includes a mixture of lower-level and higher-level questions. Teachers should avoid things like confusing questions, questions that just have a yes or no answer, or questions that would embarrass students. One simple but effective discussion strategy is wait time. Research has found that when teachers paused longer after asking questions, student responses became dramatically longer and more thoughtful. Students also volunteered more often. Basically, slowing down the pace gives students time to actually think instead of just racing to answer. It's also incredibly important to establish discussion norms. Students need to know what respectful disagreement looks like and how to build on each other's ideas. Teachers can support this by reflecting student thinking back to them with phrases like, "I think I heard you say," or by asking students to clarify and provide evidence for their thinking. It can also help to implement strategies for structuring discussion, such as assigning communication roles during group work, or even using simple tools like a beach ball to indicate whose turn it is to speak. The overall goal is to move away from discussions where only a handful of students dominate the conversation, and towards discussions where more students are actively engaged. At the end of a discussion, teachers should intentionally close the lesson instead of just letting them fade out awkwardly. Summarizing key ideas, connecting the discussion to the next activity, or asking students to reflect on how the discussion went can help students process what they've learned. Next, let's talk about differentiation. Differentiation is based on the idea that students in any classroom will have different readiness levels, interests, backgrounds, strengths, and learning needs. Using the exact same instructional approach over and over for every student just isn't realistic or effective. Strong teachers use multiple models of instruction depending on their goals. For example, presentation teaching might work well for introducing declarative knowledge, while direct instruction is more useful for protocol skills. Cooperative learning, classroom discussion, and problem-based learning are often better for problem solving and collaboration. Different situations call for different teaching approaches. In a differentiated classroom, students are more actively involved in learning. Teachers may provide assignment choices, use flexible groups, offer different levels of support, or vary instructional formats. One important strategy discussed is tiered activities. In a tiered lesson, all students work toward the same learning goal, but the difficulty level or support changes based on student needs. Some students may receive extra scaffolding, while others receive more advanced extensions. Assessments also look a little different in differentiated classrooms. Instead of focusing only on final grades, teachers focus more on growth and ongoing progress. The goal is helping students move forward from where they currently are. Differentiation can feel overwhelming at first. Managing a classroom where students are working on different tasks requires strong routines, clear expectations, and ongoing monitoring. Teachers may need small group instruction for struggling learners while also planning meaningful activities for early finishers. Differentiation does not mean creating entirely separate classrooms for every student. I would encourage new teachers to start small. Maybe adapt one assignment for a few students first, then build from there as you grow more comfortable. Next, let's hear from a special education teacher about how classroom discussions can be differentiated to support and include all learners.
All right, so tell me what grades and subjects you've taught and where.
Okay, it goes back to 20 years ago. I started with sixth grade inclusion, Long Island, New York, in West Hampton Beach. So inclusion there is every single subject.
Mm-hmm.
So I was teaching math, science, social studies, and so forth, just for the sixth grade. So I
You had the
transitioned
same
for
kids
all
all
those
day?
classes. Same kids all day. It also was a smaller ratio again, but again, that was 20 years ago. Okay. And from there, from sixth grade, I moved up to seventh grade inclusion. And that's when we did math and science for together. So just on one team. And then I did social studies and English. I've also done my last 3 years before I moved here, I was teaching self contained fifth and sixth grade. So I've been around a lot.
So this lesson is going to be on like leading classroom discussions, and I find when leading classroom discussions that my special ed students often just kind of like be quiet and don't join the discussion. They just sit in the background. Do you have any ideas for new teachers on how to like make sure everybody's getting involved when we're doing classroom discussions?
Yeah, make it engaging. You can let kids piggyback off each other if they get stuck. A lot of kids, they love their fidget toys or balls. So if you take a ball and pass it around, or kind of like those fun Neos, hey, we're going to use this Neo today, okay? But I'm going to ask a question, and you got to raise your hand instead of raising it, and it'll kind of like tossing it back and forth. So again, and especially those kids that get really stuck and are afraid, let them piggyback off of somebody. They can start, and again, so they don't have that pressure on them. A lot of students that have processing needs takes them a little longer. Just give them a little wait time. They'll have the Neo in their hand. They have that fidget toy, so that could help these anxiety as well. So that could be like a good hands-on strategy to help them.
I had never thought of that. That's good. Okay, what do you wish more general education teachers knew about helping you do your job better or helping the kids, the special ed students more?
They need to be aware, I guess, of their IEP and their accommodations. And if they don't know how to implement them, then ask. That's what they. That's what we're there for. You know, come to us for strategies or anything that you don't understand. Our kids too. Again, sometimes I've heard before, and I'm sure you have learned helplessness.
Mm-hmm.
And as a special educator, that kind of is like a knife to the heart, because in some cases, you know, depending, every student is different, but especially with those students that have significant cognitive delays and they process things slower, um, again, it's it's harder for them. So again, be aware of, you know, if they have a learning disability or if there's something more to it, because there are parts of an IEP that aren't completely shared. Most of the times you have accommodations. So again, like
we
just
often don't get to know like what the reason for the IEP is.
yeah. So again, like if you have questions or anything, just come to us because we're really there to support you guys however we can. You know, there are babies.
Yeah, we have kids that have so many different accommodations. Is there anything that we can do that's just kind of generally more helpful?
Like tier one supports. I mean, you have your tier one supports, your extended time.
More vocab front loading.
Yeah, vocabulary is a big, especially in science and social studies. And I just had a meeting, you know, and I have a student that has a significant cognitive weakness, a poor working memory, and they have a language barrier. So in that sense, they're not understanding, they're struggling understanding the English language, but again, their working memory is very poor. So again, like pre-teaching vocabulary is huge when it comes to, you know, comprehension in science and social studies. Also, visuals is huge. So even like posting vocabulary words or kind of giving visuals that they can refer back to, having that word match with the visual. So then you can kind of, when you're teaching and you're up there, you can point to it so they can see it. I used to give a lot of picture notes to help with students. So like in science too, if you had the water cycle or just any kind of visual,
We've done
giving
like
more so of those notes than kind of like long reading notes.
we've done like some doodle notes, and then that lets them like sketch and stuff when they're zoning out too.
Yeah, doodle notes is helpful because it's how they're thinking. But again, like anything visual is a huge support, not just to them, but it works for like everybody. It's very helpful.